If you're getting ready to move up to a bigger home in Toronto, there are 5 types of properties that look like deals on paper, but they become money pits within 24 months. I have watched move-up buyers make every one of these mistakes. So a friend of mine shared with me about a friend they knew. A civil engineer and physiotherapist that I know bought a 1920s semi in Corsa Italia about a couple years ago for about $1 million. It looked like a steal. It was listed at 1.15, sat for about 50 days. That they negotiated about $100,000 off the house. They thought they were smart. Within the first year, they spent $47,000 on emergency foundation work, knob and tube removal, and new electrical panel. The home inspection only flagged a couple of these, but not all of them. That couple, they had about $350,000 in equity from their King West condo. They could have bought a detached bungalow in the East End for about $900K. Instead, they're carrying a $700,000 on a mortgage plus a $47,000 line of credit on a house that still needs a new roof. Here are the 5 house types that trap move-up buyers and what to buy instead. Toronto has thousands of homes built before 1940. Talk about Cabbagetown, the Annex, Riverdale, Corsa Italia, Roncy. They have character, original millwork, stained glass windows, wide plank hardwood. They also have rubble stone foundation that cracks under frost, knob and tube wiring that insurance companies refuse to cover, galvanized steel plumbing that corrodes from the inside, and asbestos insulation in the walls and around the duct joints. The average first year surprise cost for a pre-1940 Toronto home is usually about maybe $35K if you're lucky to about $110,000. This is based on 2026 Toronto contractor pricing. That is on top of the purchase price. Foundation underpinning and waterproofing alone can run about $50K or more. Full house knob and tube rewiring, $10 to $25K, depending on the size of the house and how much wiring there is. Asbestos abatement in the walls and around the ducts could be as low as $3,000, but could be over $20,000. And here's the part that gets overlooked. Insurance companies in Ontario can refuse to cover a home with knob and tube wiring. If you close on a Century home and your insurer discovers their active knob and tube, they can cancel your policy. You cannot carry a mortgage without insurance. So now you're paying about $15 to $25K for emergency rewiring just to keep the mortgage alive. Buyers that move up coming from condos are used to maintenance fees that covers almost everything. The jump from $750 per month in condo fees to $15,000 in foundation repair in a month, that's a shock that breaks budgets. Here's what to do instead. If you love character, budget maybe an extra $50K in reserve above your down payment. So get a good buyer home inspection before you purchase. Make sure you check the structure, foundation. This usually costs about $500 to $1,000, depending on the inspector. And it'll save you tens of thousands in surprises. Toronto sits on 12 major watersheds: the Don River, Highland Creek, Memorial Creek, Rouge River. Every one of them has a regulated floodplain managed by the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Homes inside or adjacent to floodplains are a little bit cheaper, sometimes $50 to $100K below the comparable properties 1 or 2 streets over. That discount exists for a reason. Flood insurance in Toronto costs about $3 to $8K per year for property inside the TRCA regulated zone. Some insurers will not cover basement flooding at all. And if the city designates your property as flood risk in its updated stormwater management plan, your resale value drops further. After the July 2013 flood that caused about $1 billion in GTA damage, insurance companies withdrew their risk map. Properties that were insurable in 2012 became uninsurable in 2014. If you buy in a flood zone today, you're betting that will not happen again. That is not a bet I recommend. There's another angle people miss. The TRCA can restrict what you build on flood adjacent land. Even if the house itself is outside of flood line, if part of your lot falls inside the regulated area, you may need TRCA permit for a deck, a shed, even a fence. That adds $2 to $5K in application fees and 3 to 6 months in delays to any backyard project. What to do instead? Check the TRCA floodplain map before you make an offer. It is free on their website. If the listing is within 50 meters of the regulated zone, ask for a surveyor's certificate confirming the building footprint is outside the line. Costs maybe $5 to $1,500. This one catches more buyers than any other. You find a semi or detached with a basement apartment already finished. The listing says income potential or previously tenanted. The buyer thinks, great, rental income offsets my mortgage. But the basement was never permitted. No building permit, no fire separation, no second egress, no separate HVAC. Under Ontario's fire code and the Ontario zoning bylaw, an unpermitted basement suite is illegal. If the city inspects, you get an order to comply. The cost to bring an illegal suite up to code in Toronto runs about $50 to $100K. Fire-rated drywall on walls and ceilings between units, $15,000 to $25,000. A second means of egress with a code-compliant window well or walkout, $10,000 to $20K. Separate electrical panel, about $5,000 to $10,000. Plumbing isolation, $4,000 to $8,000. Permits and architectural drawings, another $3,000 to $7K. And the Ontario Building Code requires a minimum ceiling height of 1.95 meters in habitable rooms. If your basement sits at 1.8 meters, you need underpinning to lower the floor. That alone adds $20,000 to $50K to the project. Many older basements are well under that minimum. If you cannot afford the remediation, you have to decommission the suite and lose the rental income you budget into your purchase map. I've seen buyers get caught by this. You might have to refinance within 18 months to cover the costs. What to do instead? Before you offer, search the address on the City of Toronto's building permit portal. If there's no permit for a secondary suite, assume the cost of legalization is $75K and deduct that from your offer or walk away. Okay, this list will save you 6 figures if you use it. Every week I put out a video showing Toronto buyers what to avoid, what to look for, and how to run the numbers. Subscribe if you do not want to miss the next one. And I'm asking for a favor. I want to hit 600 subs. I'm just about 30 short as of right now. And if you help me, I promise to keep on making videos just like this. Metrolinx is building the Ontario line, the Eglinton Crosstown extension, and electrifying the GO corridor across the East End. This is billions of dollars in transit infrastructure. Long term, it adds value. Short term, it makes life miserable. If you buy a house within 200 meters of active GO corridor construction, you're living with pile drivers at 7 a.m., truck traffic on residential streets, and dust that coats your windows for 3 to 5 years. More importantly, during construction, comparable sales within the corridor trade at 5 to 8% below homes that are 2 streets away. $900,000 a house near the Scarborough GO expansion corridor sold for $855 in February. The same layout 2 blocks north sold for about $912,000. That's about a $57,000 penalty for proximity to construction. Now let's talk about the Eglinton Crosstown. That one's actually by my house. This is a cautionary tale. It was supposed to open in 2020. As of early 2026, it finally opened. Businesses along Eglinton Avenue have been dealing with construction for over a decade. Homeowners on side streets within 200 meters lived through years of noise and dust. Many tried to sell during that period. The ones that did took a bit of a discount. Once construction is done, which is now, values are slowly recovering and they will exceed pre-construction levels. And if you need to sell before a completion, like any sort of completion around construction, you have to eat the discount. So this is what you do instead. You buy 2 to 4 blocks away from the corridor. You get the long-term transit value without the short-term construction penalty. Look at Metrolinx project maps on their website. You draw a 200-meter buffer and you stay outside of it. This is the quiet trap. The house that looks fine. 3 bedrooms, updated kitchen, nice street. You make the offer, you close, and then you discover you cannot build a deck, cannot add an addition, and cannot convert the garage because the lot is undersized for current zoning. Toronto's R zone, which is the residential zone, requires a minimum of 5.5 meters frontage for most detached homes. Hundreds of lots in the East End, they were subdivided in the 1940s and 50s with 4.5 to 5 meter frontages. They are legally non-conforming. The house can stay, but any addition, extension, or new structure requires a committee adjustment minor variance. The City of Toronto's 2026 fee schedule puts the application alone over $2,000 for alterations and $5,000 for new residential. Added planning consultant, survey, architectural drawing, and potential arborist report if there are protected trees near the build zone. Total cost $6,000 to $12,000 before you even touch a single brick. The timeline takes about 1 to 3 months, and approval is not guaranteed. The committee can say no. If you're buying a house to live in for 20 years and never change it, an undersized lot is fine. If you're buying with a plan to add a second story, build out the back, or add a laneway suite, the lot dimensions matter more than the house itself. And here's how it hits buyers specifically. You sold your condo, you bought the semi, you plan to add a second floor in 5 years when the kids need their own rooms. But the lot is 4.8 meters wide. The committee adjustment application takes about 6 months, costs you about $10,000, and gets denied because the neighbor objected. Now you're stuck in a house you cannot grow into. You're ready to sold your condo. Here's what to do instead. Before you offer, check the lot frontage on the City of Toronto's interactive zoning map. If it's under 5.5 meters, decide now whether you can live with the house as is for the foreseeable future. If you plan to renovate or expand, I'll keep looking. 5 house types: century homes with hidden costs, flood zone properties illegal basements, corridor construction zones, and undersized lots. So that couple I mentioned earlier, the engineer and physio, they are about $50K into repairs on a house they bought that they thought was a deal. A 20-minute call with a foundation expert before they offer would have caught it. Check the foundation, check the flood map, check the permits, check the corridor, and check the lot. 5 checks, 5 minutes each. That's 25 minutes that could save you $100,000. 4 of those checks are free. The 5th costs maybe $1,000. And there's no reason not to do all 5 before every offer you write.